MCU heroes, ranked least to most likely to win Squid Game. The heroes of the MCU have gone up against many dangerous threats, but when playing the Squid Game, some of them might be better suited than others. Netflix's international hit Squid Game had contestants playing children's games with deadly consequences. The engrossing series had a lot of fans wondering how they would fare in the games, but it is even more fun to imagine which of Marvel's iconic heroes would go the furthest. While there are plenty of powerful heroes in the MCU, it takes far more than just strength to win in Squid Game. Certain heroes don't have the right temperament or skills to succeed, while others would be hard to beat in these dangerous games. Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord, is one of the funniest heroes in the MCU, but he isn't exactly someone who can be counted on to stay focused. Avengers: Infinity War proved he is reckless and short-sighted as he messed up the plans to defeat Thanos. Though Quill would come into the games with a lot of confidence, his tendency to act before he thinks would get him into trouble early on. In all honesty, it's unlikely Quill would make it out of the first round alive. Scott Lang, aka Ant-Man, is another hero whose sense of humor is probably his greatest strength. One of the most charming things about Scott is that he is a nice guy sucked into the world of superheroes and doesn't really know how to handle it. Though his shrinking abilities might come in handy for some of the games like Red Light, Green Light, Scott likely wouldn't be able to keep his cool. It's easy to see him as one of those players that panics and loses very early. It's not surprising that baby Groot wouldn't last too long in the games, but it is unlikely the full-grown Groot would get much further. It is true that Groot has considerable strength on his side and would likely be able to succeed in games where that is an asset. However, the sad reality is that Groot is not the smartest being in the galaxy. When it comes to the strategy and finesse of the games, Groot would be hopeless. The gentle giant would likely be horrified by the whole concept as well. Like Groot, Hulk would find some success with the strength-based games. Any team that had Hulk for tug-of-war would be looking at a surefire victory. But he is also someone who doesn't do well with strategy. Aside from that, Hulk's anger would be a liability in many of the games. It is hard to see him having the patience to carve shapes out of sugar cookies like is seen in Squid Game. Of course, while Hulk might lose such games, actually taking him out of the games might be difficult. Once again, Thor is proof that power can only get someone so far in Squid Game, and his reckless attitude would be his downfall. From Hela to Thanos to the various monsters Thor encounters, his first instinct is always to smash them with his hammer, and that wouldn't do much good here. Thor is also arrogant enough to think he will win and rush into the games without understanding the threat. In the end, that mighty hammer and all those big muscles would prove to be quite useless for the God of Thunder. Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, has a lot of qualities that would be valuable in these games. He is a strong soldier with plenty of discipline who is also a pretty solid strategist. It's easy to see him taking a team leader role and helping others survive. However, at a certain point in the games, playing on a team doesn't work anymore. Steve Rogers is a selfless man and could never bring himself to be as ruthless as necessary to survive. By the time he reached the Marvel's game, he would likely sacrifice himself to save someone else. There are very few situations that Iron Man, aka Tony Stark, can't think his way out of. In Iron Man 3, he proved that even without his armor he was still just as impressive. He would approach each of the games with an analytic mind to determine the smartest move. However, Stark has a rebellious attitude and is not one who could play by the rules for long. He would likely look for loopholes or ways of outwitting the game masters, which would cost him. Though he has no superpowers, Nick Fury is someone who would likely excel in Squid Game. He is someone who operates in the shadows, making moves others are not even aware of and assessing every situation for all potential threats. He is a pragmatic and strategical operator who would take a very intelligent approach to each of the games. And even without powers, Fury can handle himself as well as just about any hero in dangerous situations. T'Challa aka Black Panther has many of the same qualities that make Captain America a hero. He is strong, noble, and intelligent. All these aspects of his personality would serve him well, but he also has some other qualities that Cap doesn't possess. While T'Challa fights alongside the Avengers, he is also comfortable operating on his own. He is calculating and reserved, only letting others know what he wants them to know. If fighting for the right cause, T'Challa would be a formidable opponent in these games. Out of the Avengers, Black Widow might be overlooked in terms of power. She is a super spy but still just an ordinary powerless human. However, the fact that she could stand side by side with gods and super soldiers proves these games would be a walk in the park for her. She is strong, agile, and a fighter for the games that call for it, but her skills as a spy are why she would win. She is cunning and can play other people, which comes in handy later in the games.